Mom shouted, "You're ungrateful. Get out and never come back." So I left without a word. Weeks later, Dad texted, "Why haven't you paid the mortgage?" I replied, "Oh, I thought I wasn't welcome," and then my phone blew up. My name's Evan, I'm 27, and about 6 months ago, I walked out of my parents' house for what I thought was the last time. I didn't slam the door, I didn't yell back, I didn't even pack much, just a duffel bag with a few changes of clothes and my laptop. I was done, completely done. And yet, here I was, sitting on my couch in my new apartment, staring at my phone as it buzzed nonstop with messages from my parents. Their numbers flashed across the screen like a bad joke. It was almost funny, almost. But let me back up, because if you're reading this, you're probably wondering how I got here. Growing up, my parents weren't exactly warm. I wouldn't say they were outright abusive, but love in our house had conditions. I was the responsible one, the dependable one, the kid who never rebelled, never got into trouble, never gave them a reason to complain. My older brother Zach, oh, he was the golden child, he could do no wrong. Even when he was wrong, he was just finding himself. He dropped out of college, got fired from 3 jobs in a row, corporate jobs just didn't appreciate his creativity, and moved back home at 30 with no job and no real prospects. Times are tough for everyone. Meanwhile, I got my first job at 16, put myself through college on scholarships and part-time gigs, and started working in finance straight out of school. I never asked my parents for a dime, but you know who did? Zach. And guess who was expected to pick up the slack when our parents started struggling with their mortgage? Yeah, me. I didn't complain at first, I had the money, and they were my parents. They never outright demanded it, but the guilt trips were insidious. Mom would sob dramatically when I visited, talking about how hard things had been lately and how they were just a little short this month. Dad would mention, completely casually, how Zach was trying so hard but just needed a little more time to get on his feet. I knew what they were doing, and I let them do it. At first, it was just covering their utility bills here and there, then it was groceries, then a temporary contribution to the mortgage. Temporary stretched into every month. Soon I was paying for almost everything outside of their car payments, and Zach just sat around the house playing video games, acting like a guest in his own home. I gritted my teeth and dealt with it. I figured they were my family. Families help each other. But then, 6 months ago, things came to a head. It was a Sunday afternoon, and I had just finished a long week at work. I stopped by my parents' house like I usually did, bringing over a few groceries because I knew they would have forgotten to go shopping again. I walked in, bags in hand, only to find Mom sitting in the living room, arms crossed, lips pressed in that thin line she always got when she was gearing up to be angry. Zach was on the couch as usual, looking completely unbothered, tapping away on his phone. Dad was standing in the kitchen, shaking his head like he was disappointed in me for something I didn't even know I'd done. I barely had time to say hey before Mom launched into it. "We need to talk, Evan." That was never a good sign. I set the bags down, already exhausted about what Dad said, stepping forward. "We've been talking, and we think it's time you contribute more. You make good money, and it's not fair for us to be struggling while you're living on your own, spending your paycheck however you want." I just blinked. "I already am contributing, Mom." She scoffed. "A few bills here and there, that's nothing compared to what we need." My hands curled into fists at my sides. "I've been covering the mortgage for the past 2 years, that's not nothing." Zach, who had been silent up until now, actually had the nerve to roll his eyes. "Come on, man, you know they've done a lot for us." I snapped at him. "Us? I don't see you paying for anything." That set Mom off. "Don't talk to your brother like that, he's trying his best." I let out a humorless laugh. "Really? Because from where I'm standing, all he's trying to do is set a world record for most consecutive hours spent doing absolutely nothing." Dad stepped in, his voice sharp enough. "We're asking you to step up, the house is too much for us to handle alone. If you were a good son, you'd take responsibility." Something in me snapped right then. I had given them everything, my time, my money, my patience, and it was never enough. It was never going to be enough. I inhaled slowly. "Let me get this straight, you want me to take over the mortgage completely, pay for everything while Zach continues to do nothing, and you don't see anything wrong with that?" Mom's lips thinned. "We just thought, as our son, you'd want to help your family." "And what exactly is Zach?" I asked, voice dangerously calm. "A houseplant?" Zach sat up, glaring at me. "I hate you, dude. I didn't ask for this." "No," I said, grabbing my bag. "But you sure did benefit from it." Mom stood up, anger rolling off her in waves. "If you walk out that door, don't bother coming back." I stared at her for a long moment, and then finally I smiled. "Okay," I said simply, and I walked out. No dramatic speeches, no yelling, just done. I ignored the calls at first, then the texts. I moved into my own apartment, finally free, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I could actually breathe. But today, oh today was different, because after 6 months of silence, Dad finally texted me. Dad texted, "Why haven't you paid the mortgage this month?" I stared at the message for a second, then let out a slow exhale, feeling something dark and satisfied settle in my chest. I typed out my reply, "Oh, I thought I wasn't welcome." And then my phone exploded with messages. I leaned back on my couch, watching the notifications flood in. I wasn't done yet, not even close. I watched my phone vibrate violently against the coffee table, the screen lighting up with a barrage of messages, one after another, texts from my parents and, surprisingly, even Zach poured in like a dam had just broken. I didn't touch it, not at first. I just sat back, arms crossed, staring at it like it was some wild animal thrashing around in a cage. I could already imagine what they were saying. Mom was probably furious, demanding to know how I could be so selfish after everything they had done for me. Dad would be trying to sound reasonable at first, appealing to my sense of duty, before eventually caving to frustration when I didn't immediately respond. And Zach, I wasn't even sure what his angle was, but if I had to guess, he was either trying to guilt trip me or act like this whole situation had nothing to do with him. Curiosity finally got the better of me, and I picked up my phone. Mom texted, "What is wrong with you? How could you do this to us? The bank just called, we're late on the mortgage payment. Are you really this cruel?" Dad texted, "Evan, this is serious, we can't afford to be behind on the mortgage. We could lose the house. Call me now." Mom texted again, "I can't believe you're doing this out of spite. We raised you, and this is how you repay us? You think you're punishing us, but you're just hurting your family." Dad texted, "Don't be childish, you're not a kid anymore, and we can't handle this on our own. You need to step up." Zach texted, "Dude, what do you know? They don't have the money. Are you really going to let Mom and Dad lose the house just to prove a point?" Ah, there it was, the guilt trip, right on schedule. I could have responded right away, but I didn't. Instead, I leaned back and let them stew, let the panic settle in, let them start realizing maybe for the first time that I wasn't their safety net anymore. After about 20 minutes, my phone buzzed again, a call from Dad. I let it go to voicemail. Then a call from Mom, straight to voicemail. Another text from Zach. Zach texted, "Answer your phone, this isn't funny." I smiled to myself. Funny, that's exactly what I found it to be, because for years I had been pouring money into that house like a fool, no questions asked, no complaints, and yet the second I stopped, everything fell apart. So, what had they been doing all this time? Did they even try to prepare for this? I decided to respond, but I wasn't going to waste time arguing. I replied, "Not my problem." It took exactly 10 seconds for Mom to call again. This time, I picked up. The second I answered, she was already screaming, "How dare you?" She shrieked. "You can't just abandon your family like this, Evan. You know we need your help. We trusted you." I kept my voice calm. "Oh, like how you trusted me to just keep paying for everything while Zach does nothing all day? Don't talk about your brother like that," she snapped. "He's going through a rough time. You have no idea how hard it is for him." I laughed, actually laughed. "A rough time? Mom, Zach's been going through a rough time for 10 years. You know who else had a rough time? Me, while I was working hard to keep a roof over your heads." She sucked in a breath, but I wasn't done. "You told me not to come back," I continued. "So I didn't. And now that the money's dried up, you're suddenly acting like I owe you something. That's not how this works." She was quiet for a second, then her voice turned venomous. "We did everything for you, Evan. Everything. And this is how you treat us? You walk away when we need you the most?" I let out a slow breath. "No, Mom. I walked away when you made it clear I was only useful as long as I was paying your bills." Silence. Then Dad's voice cut in. He must have grabbed the phone from her. "Evan," he said, his voice lower, more measured, "we just need a little help, just this month. We're already behind, and we don't have enough to cover it. If you don't help, the bank is going to start foreclosure proceedings." I felt something sharp twist in my chest, not guilt, anger, because this was what they did, always push until I had no choice but to give in, make me feel like the bad guy for finally setting boundaries. But not this time. I exhaled through my nose. "Sell the house, then." Mom's voice exploded in the background. "We can't sell the house. This is our family home." I shrugged, even though they couldn't see me. "Sounds like a personal problem, Dad." Dad inhaled sharply, like he was trying to keep his cool. "Evan, be reasonable. We just need a little support until we figure things out." "Figure things out," I repeated, my voice flat, like how to finally get Zach to pull his weight, or how to guilt trip me into fixing your mistakes again. "Enough, Dad," snapped, "I'm done begging. You're our son, and you will help us." I felt my lips curl into a slow, bitter smile. There it was, the real them, not desperate, not helpless, entitled. "Well," I said, dragging out the word, "it looks like you'll have to figure this one out on your own." Then I hung up. Almost immediately, more texts came in from Mom, from Dad, from Zach, furious, desperate, insulting, but I didn't care. For the first time in years, I finally felt free. But something told me this wasn't over yet, not even close. A few hours passed, and I was feeling good, really good. I stretched out on my couch, flipped through some random TV channels, and enjoyed the rare silence of a day where I wasn't getting sucked into my family's endless black hole of demands. Then my phone rang. I sighed, already knowing who it was, but when I checked the screen, I actually laughed. Zach again. I let it ring out. A voicemail popped up a minute later. I played it on speaker, mostly for my own amusement. The moment I hung up my phone, it started blowing up again with calls, texts, and voicemails. It was almost comical. One second they were kicking me out like I was some useless extra in their perfect little family, and the next they were desperately trying to reel me back in. Too bad for them, I wasn't biting. Instead, I leaned back and scrolled through my banking app, checking old transfers I had made to them over the years, thousands and thousands of dollars, all sent like clockwork. But here's the thing, if the mortgage was barely being paid now, what had they been doing with all that money before? That question buzzed in my mind as I finally made a call, not to them, but to the bank. It took a few minutes to get through, but when I finally spoke to someone, I explained the situation in my best concerned and responsible adult voice. "Hi, I used to handle my parents' mortgage payments, but I recently stopped. I just wanted to check the status of their account." The rep asked me a few questions, then put me on hold, and when she came back, the answer nearly made me laugh out loud. "Sir, it looks like the account has been delinked for nearly 8 months. 8 months. I ran a hand through my hair, suppressing a whistle. "Wow, so you're saying that even while I was sending them money, they weren't paying?" Another pause. "It appears so, yes." Now that was gold. I ended the call, a grin stretching across my face. Oh, they were done, but I wasn't done yet. I took a deep breath, then for the first time since all this started, I actually called Zach back. The phone barely rang before he picked up. "Evan, finally, dude, you need to fix this." "Hey, quick question," I interrupted, "where do you think all the money I sent went?" Silence. I pressed on. The bank says they haven't received a full mortgage payment in nearly 8 months, so where did it go, Zach? A long pause, then I don't know what you're talking about. I snorted. Oh, come on, man, you live there, you had to notice something. Mom and Dad suddenly buying more stuff, taking trips. Where did the money go? He spluttered. Why does that matter? The point is, I cut in, they've been lying, they've been letting me pay while they pocketed the rest, and now they're only freaking out because they finally ran out of my money. Another silence, then suddenly Zach let out a frustrated breath. You don't get it, Evan. They're your parents, they needed help. Oh, trust me, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. I got that memo loud and clear. In fact, I got it on repeat every month for years. You're being cruel, Zach shot back. You're letting them suffer. No, Zach, I replied, I'm letting them face the consequences of their own stupidity. I could practically hear his jaw clenching, but before he could try another guilt trip, I hit him with the real kicker. You know, I was actually going to feel bad about all this, I said, but after learning they were lying to me for almost a year, they can figure this out without me. You're making a mistake, Zach growled. I smirked. Yeah, we'll see. And I hung up. I barely had time to toss my phone on the couch before the next call came in. Mom, of course. I let it ring, then another call, then another, and then a text. Mom texted, we need to talk right now. I smirked and typed back, oh, now I'm part of the family again? That's cute. Almost instantly, Mom texted, stop this, you're ruining everything. I cracked my knuckles, grinning, ruining everything? No, I was just getting started. I sat back on the couch, staring at my phone. The messages from Mom and Dad were still coming through, each one more desperate than the last. My phone buzzed again, this time with a text from Dad. I can't believe you're doing this after everything we've done for you. You're going to let us lose the house. What kind of son are you? I scoffed and shook my head. Everything they've done for me? If I had $1 for every time they manipulated me with that line, I could have paid off their mortgage myself. It was the same tired guilt trip tactic they always used, but not this time. I wasn't falling for it anymore. I opened my messages and fired back, typing each word with deliberate calmness. Funny, I was just thinking the same thing. You both keep asking what kind of son I am, but it seems like I'm the only one who's actually been paying attention. I'm not the one who failed to pay the bills. I'm not the one who ignored the problem for months. Maybe it's time you both learn to deal with your own messes. My thumb hovered over the screen. I almost hit send immediately, but instead, I took a deep breath. I wasn't going to make this easy for them. This wasn't just about the mortgage anymore, it was about finally taking control back. I sent it a few seconds later. Dad called. I picked up on the third ring, trying to keep my voice steady. Evan, this isn't you. We raised you better than this. You know we've always been there for you. Really? Because the only thing I remember is you always being there for your own convenience. I couldn't stop myself. The bitterness I had buried for years was finally spilling out. I've been covering your debts for so long I can't even count how many times I saved your asses. But every time I needed you, you were either too busy or too wrapped up in your own mess to even care. And now you want to call me ungrateful? There was a long pause on the other end. I could almost feel him scrambling for the right words. We're sorry, Evan, we messed up, but please, we need your help. You know we're not going to make it without you. I paused, my fingers tapped the armrest. No, Dad, you need to learn to stand on your own. You've been living off my generosity for too long. It's not my responsibility to fix your mistakes anymore. Please, he begged, don't do this. We'll pay you back, we swear. I couldn't help but let out a humorless laugh. Funny, because I've been waiting for that payback for years. Where is it, Dad? Where's the appreciation for everything I've done? More silence, then finally he said, Evan, I'm sorry, I was wrong. You've been more than generous, and I took you for granted. But don't let us lose the house, please, I'm begging you. This is everything. It was a weak play, the kind of plea I had grown used to over the years, but this time it didn't work. No, I said flatly, you're going to learn how to deal with this on your own. I'm done. I hung up before he could say anything else. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and relief. This wasn't a victory over them, it was freedom. Finally, I was no longer their safety net. But then I saw another text from Mom. You don't understand, you'll regret this. You'll see how far this will go. We need you, Evan, don't let this ruin everything. I almost snorted, she still didn't get it. They both still thought I was just a tool to be used until it was convenient for them. I fired back another text without hesitation. You've had enough time. I'm done bailing you out. Deal with the mess you made. I'm not your fall guy anymore. Then I turned my phone off. It felt like an emotional weight had been lifted, but at the same time, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. So here I am, asking you all for your opinion. Did I go too far? Should I have tried to find another way to resolve this, or did I finally do the right thing by cutting them off and forcing them to face the consequences of their actions? I really want to know what you think. Let me know.